That heavy feeling in your chest isn't random, and it's rarely just in your head. It's a signal, but not the kind most people think it is. Chest heaviness often shows up quietly, not as sharp pain, not as an emergency, just a persistent pressure, a weight that comes and goes, a sense that breathing takes more effort than it should. At first, it's easy to dismiss. Maybe you slept wrong. Maybe it's stress. Maybe it's age. You tell yourself it'll pass. But then it doesn't. You notice it when you walk uphill, when the weather changes, when you're tired but can't quite explain why. You can breathe, yet breathing doesn't feel smooth. Your chest feels tight, full, or resistant, even though nothing dramatic is happening. So you start doing what makes sense. You check your posture. You try breathing exercises. You cut back on things you think might irritate your lungs. You drink more water. You try supplements, teas, remedies people swear by. Some help briefly. Most don't change the underlying sensation. And that's where frustration builds. Because the heaviness isn't intense enough to panic, but it's persistent enough to be distracting. Most explanations stop at the obvious. Stress, anxiety, tension. And while those factors can amplify the sensation, they rarely explain why the feeling is so physical, so localized, and so consistent. Here's what usually gets missed. Chest heaviness isn't caused by one single issue. It's the result of several small systems falling slightly out of balance, not enough to fail, but enough to create resistance. The real issue isn't weak lungs. It's subtle interference. Inflammation is one of the biggest contributors. Not severe inflammation, the kind that sends you to the hospital, but low-grade, ongoing irritation in the bronchial tubes. When those airways are even slightly inflamed, breathing becomes less efficient. Air still moves, but it doesn't flow freely. That resistance is felt as pressure. Mucus plays a role too. It doesn't have to block anything to matter. When mucus becomes thicker or doesn't clear properly, it changes the internal texture of the airways. Breathing feels heavier, even though airflow technically remains normal. Then there's circulation. Your lungs don't work in isolation. Oxygen exchange depends on healthy blood flow through lung tissue. When circulation is slightly reduced due to inflammation, aging, or systemic stress, the body compensates. And compensation feels like effort. You're breathing enough, but it costs more energy. Histamine response adds another layer. Seasonal shifts, environmental triggers, or sensitivities can cause subtle swelling in the airways. Not enough to cause obvious allergy symptoms, but enough to create tightness and pressure. None of these factors show up clearly on standard tests. Because medical tests are designed to detect danger, not discomfort. They look for obstruction, disease, or acute dysfunction. They don't measure how smoothly air moves, how efficiently oxygen is used, or how much effort your system is expending to maintain normal results. The real issue isn't that something is broken. It's that your respiratory system is working harder than it should. That's an important distinction. Once you understand that chest heaviness often comes from efficiency problems rather than failure, the experience becomes less alarming and more logical. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What's adding resistance?" This perspective also explains why quick fixes rarely work. You're not dealing with a single trigger. You're dealing with accumulation, inflammation, clearance, circulation, and sensitivity layering over time. That's why the heaviness can fluctuate. Why some days feel easier. Why certain seasons hit harder. Why rest helps, but doesn't fully resolve it. Chest heaviness isn't a warning siren. It's feedback. It's your body telling you that breathing while still functional isn't effortless anymore. Understanding that doesn't mean chasing solutions or expecting instant relief. It means reframing the problem accurately. And accurate framing reduces fear, confusion, and unnecessary self-blame. If you want a structured breakdown that explains how these systems interact without hype or quick promises, there's a practical framework linked in the description that explores this in more detail. And if you want more explanations like this, calm, grounded, and focused on understanding rather than fear, you can subscribe for future breakdowns. Chest heaviness stops feeling mysterious when you understand the layers behind it. And clarity is often the first step toward feeling lighter again.